About a year ago, I had the honour and privilege of standing here and accepting a few awards. But tonight I get to reflect on the year and also effectively 20 years of the Telstra Australian Businesswomen's Awards. Entering and winning the awards gave my work enormous recognition. It gave me an enormous reflection and also to all of those around me enormous pride as I actually became the first Queenslander to win the national title in 16 years. I spoke last year about how I feel a responsibility and how that word to me actually means response-ability, the ability to respond. And so all the women tonight who are finalists who've been nominated have actually accepted responsibility. They've risen to the pinnacle because they've had some courage and have stepped up to the plate. What I have been able to explain over the last 12 months in particular is how I try and lead. And so I'll take you through a little bit of that now. And it ended up coming from a question my son asked once, what do I do as a CEO? And I said, I lead strategy, I lead people, and I lead risk. I have a favourite quote that I've actually said countless times over the past 12 months. And it's a quote from an American poet, Maya Angelou. 8 words. When you learn, teach. When you get, give. So what have I learnt? Well, strategy, people and risk. The way I think about strategy first is I think of big rocks, right? You've got to understand your big rocks. What do you value? What's the most important thing you can achieve in your business? The most important messages you can get across to your staff? What actually makes you smile? So you've got to get those big rocks in a jar first and then fill up the sand and the pebbles. Because you actually, if you put sand and pebbles in first, your rocks don't fit. So to all of you here, all of the finalist nominees, do you know what your big rocks are? And I challenge you to think of your life, to think of your strategy, just as Alyssa did. She knew what her big rock was. That competitive streak in her, she knew what a big rock was. Do you know what your absolute big rocks are? I lead people, a lot of people, and I try and lead from a place of love. I've learnt over the years that there's actually only 2 emotions, love and fear. If you act from a place of fear, whether you act or don't act because someone will judge you or fear of the consequences, you're not being true to the organisation that inspires you, that engages you, that really pays you. You've got to act from a place of love. So I'm being asked to love and care for and grow my organisation, Q Super. And that's how I try and inspire my people. And that's really the only thing I can ask them. Please, when you come to work, try and love the organisation and our clients. And it has wondrous results. And then the third thing I told my son some years ago is that I lead risk. I lead risk because I know it's a risky world, and it will always be a risky world. With choices comes risk. You have risk in every decision. And I try and remember that you actually must take decisions every day. Your life is your choice. Where you work, the fact you're here tonight, where you live, it is actually all your choice. And so you must consider and accept the risks. In the past few months, when I was on holidays with my family, we went through the Anne Frank house in Amsterdam. In the most horrifying of circumstances, Anne Frank chose to be happy. That was a choice. We have so many choices in our life, and I believe that my choices, the buck stops with me, and I accept that. So that's what I've learnt very simply in trying to lead. The second part of that quote, it was when you learn, teach, when you get, give. The second part was about when you get, give. I have the most treasured memory of the night I actually won the national award. I have a photo, and it's not of me, it's of my kids. And my kids actually aren't here tonight because one got operated on yesterday and the other is caring for him. And the photo I have of a year ago is a similar kind of feeling. My 20-year-old daughter sat outside a nightclub because my 14-year-old son, of course, couldn't go in. So my 14-year-old son couldn't go in to celebrate, and my 20-year-old daughter sat outside with him. And then later in the night when I came upon them, because it was cold, it was Melbourne, she was in a strapless gown, she'd been lent his jacket. He gave her, the 14-year-old, gave my daughter a jacket. I knew then that each of them had given to the other. And so I've got great kids, I have a great family, and I have learnt to be extremely grateful for what I have been given. Right down to being able to be in this room tonight with all these people, some wonderful staff. What you actually have is what many people would think is a first world problem. I love that phrase, it's a first world problem. Having choice is a first world problem. And so whenever you've been able to receive, in the words of Maya Angelou, when you get, remember to give. And my children gave to each other, just as they are tonight. So whether it's coffee or shoes or where to live, where to work, you've got choice, and that's a first world problem, and be grateful for that. When I was accepting awards here last year, I have a very loud, large family, and I'm not the loud, large one, I hope. But I have been taught so many things by my family and by my parents, and I was able, through winning the award, to endow a scholarship in honour of my parents. Our parents died a long time ago. They died around 20 odd years ago, so we were quite young, relatively. So I was able to give this gift because I have received so much in my life. So from me, to all the finalists, if you can just remember the 8 words: when you learn, teach, when you get, give. Remember the big rocks in your life. Remember leading through love. Remember that the buck for your choices stops with you. And then remember to give. Give to give other people those first world choices. Thank you.